Hello. Who's that in the chat room? Say hello. I'm saying hi back, whoever that is sitting there. I was going off though earlier because I was like, there's so much stuff I've seen happen that I just thought was messed up. Like, not just stuff that happened to me though. With cult behaviors, it was like stuff that happened to other people that like really upset me. And so at one point, I used to be active, pretty active amongst people involved in these things. But I was always trying to be like just an ear, someone that like I was like, oh okay, like, really, that's what happened, and I was like, you know, and I'd help people with stuff. Hey, what's going on? So there's lots of different stuff that goes on, but these are my fishies. They're hungry right now because they haven't eaten since this morning. They usually get fed twice a day, so you can see them coming up to the glass right now. They're like, hey, he's around here. They feel that bumping, me bumping around. They recognize that sound of the vibration. If you look, let's see if they'll come into the. I'll put it over here as they come in. They're literally sitting where the food comes in, pretty much right now, because they know that's where the food comes in. So now you're gonna see a lot of them come into view because where the food comes in, it's like a little to the left. So you'll see them going up, kind of to the left. But I tried to put food to the right. So I tried to put food to the left so you actually can get a good look at them. And eventually, I'm gonna get this LED for them. Yeah, but I usually only feed them like twice a day. When I first got them, I feed them a little more because they're like, they're competing against all these fish at the pet store. They're just competing, and they're schooling fish. So. Yeah, I was worried about some fish because like I was talking to one person about it, and he's like he's like sometimes when they feed on the top too much, they get air. They gulp air, and I'm like, I've never had that problem because goldfish eat the flake food all the time. And he was like, no, some fish will get like bloated. So this one person was like, that's why I feed mine like always something that kind of semi sinks. He's like, because he had like a problem with the bloating or that. And I was like, maybe this wasn't good fish food. See, like that one. See that one darting around? See, they get greedy really quickly. It doesn't take much. And some species overeat really easily. These would be a fish like that, and that's why I don't keep. That's why I like the certain predatory species because sometimes they would know when to stop eating, and some of these species do not. They just eat because the food's there. That's one thing I learned about keeping the fish. And I'm looking at them like, oh, that one's getting a little fat. And the bigger ones are, I noticed that I got, are a little more greedy. These bigger ones, and there's a couple small, really tiny ones that I was afraid to get sucked up in the filter that are in here. So that's kind of why I'm turning the filter on, so it'll suck up some of that food. Even though the food's so tiny, those little guys are pretty greedy. My water's got a lot of nitrate in it right now. That's kind of why I turned the filter on just now. Like, let's turn it on for like 30 minutes or something. I haven't been turning it on because I have one fish in there that's really small that can get got by the filter. He's like the smallest one in the school. And I'm worried about him getting caught on the filter. As you see, as that piece of grass just got caught on it. So I'm keeping it on move. There's my little wand. We'll use this. It came loose. It partially came loose. It's all good. Get out of there. Yeah, I just let those other Java ferns float free in there. Yeah. So I worry about that. And like, because I see that one, I'm like, ooh, did you get too much food? But there's a couple that are more greedy than the rest in here. And I noticed that, like, he's just a greedy one. And you can see him right there. He's still trying, and he's like, you can see he's getting a little belly bump. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I try to only feed him twice. Don't feed him too much. Even though there's quite a few fish in there. It's just like, yeah. I noticed a few. There's a couple more greedier than the others. Yeah, I almost had wolffish in here instead. Almost had wolffish put in here instead, but I said, well, we'll just do the plants for a while and see, and then the other fish not so good. The shrimp didn't so good because of the all those things that happened, and that's the same thing that happened last time I bought shrimp. That's the sick part about it. So I was like, how can these synchronicities be broken where all this weird stuff happens and then things go bad and you realize I realize what it's tied to. It's not just coincidence, the stuff that goes on. Just like with my fishing, like meeting the same people and then the same activity happening and people are like, oh, then just don't go there no more. And I'm like, you shouldn't have to feel like you're run out of a fishing hole or something because we got a couple people who want to ruin something that you're trying to create that you think would be cool and inspire someone else to do the same thing. And there's other people who are already even better fishing than me. They want to do that same thing and then just didn't want to go on the internet and do it. Millions of people, millions of fishermen out there. So it's like, it's annoying when you see like there's people who really just like, and you're trying to come up with something a little different out of the box when it comes to your fishing time limit or something, and you come up with a couple of jigs or something that's kind of unique, and you got people who want to like mess with that, and then they think you're the one doing that to them, and they don't even realize like you're just like them. You have the same semi dream as them. Just you could be working together with that person versus them against you. And some people were able to do that, but because of the cult and the controlling and stuff, they couldn't work together for too long. They got broken up because they just said, oh, well, as long as we get our fame out of it. So you got to look at things in different ways. Like I look at stuff in different ways. And sometimes trying to get that famey part isn't the best either. Like stuff, there's things that go along with it. So, but yeah, I just tie the lures and I'm like, and have my fishes. Even though this guy, he ate a lot. He looks pretty bloated. So I'm going to have to watch that one. They're still trying to look for food. I didn't put very much food in there. So I don't want to lose one of these fish to overeating. But that one is the greediest fish in here. So I watch that fish every time, and it's the biggest fish in the school. But it's the greediest one. So I'm like, I'm gonna turn this filter on and make him have to work. Give them a workout. They're gonna have to work out against the current because they ate, and then it's gonna suck up the little left if there's anything left in there. I've already put nothing. There's some duckweed growing in there, but usually duckweed doesn't do too good in the tanks I keep. Never has. I talked about it before. I usually keep the water agitated all the time, surface water, so the duckweed just can never get comfortable enough to start spreading. And it looks like this one's trying to, but I always turn the filter on for a little bit, so it probably won't grow too fast. Most people told me it grows really fast, and they didn't have to do nothing. And I was like, I've had it a couple times, and it never just started spreading. So kind of be nice if it did, sort of, but just as something else to eat up, help eat up ammonia and whatnot in the water. But yeah, I'm probably gonna end up. I might put Cory cats in here maybe. Maybe get like I just don't know what kind. I think I might get 3 Cory cats and then maybe next month I'll get like 3 Cory cats and something else, and then I think I'm just gonna leave it like that and see how. Maybe put some might add in a few more plants, and then I'm just gonna leave it alone and let it just let plants set in. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm letting these. I think they're called window. I can't say them. Window. It's a type of java fern that grows different than this big java fern. Than that one, easy to take care of. There's technically 3 of those, and then 3 of the other ones in there. 3 regular java ferns, and then 3 of the winds. I call them the window. I think there's window java ferns in there. And those are the ones that's floating around. I just let them float around until they. I decided to let them float around until they find their own spot to land, basically. Even with the filter on or off, like when they find a spot to land, let's just see. I think we'll just see what happens. Like if they take up their own, you know, natural thing and just grab a hold of something. Because the other one fell down and then it grabbed a hold of the substrate on its own. This one right here, and now it's weighted, and so it's just laying up there. It's not. It picked up the gravel, so once it did that, I picked it up and it just. I was like, oh, it's led to the gravel, so I just laid it on top of there, and the gravel's actually holding it down to that log, and it's just doing its own thing, and it looks like it's going to try to grab a hold of this other java fern that's actually in the log and tied down to the log. So it just let it do its own thing. It looks nice how it is. I almost don't want to move it because it's naturally wanting to take hold right there, and it seems to be growing better than even the ones that are tied to the log. So I was like, I might move it though eventually, like over, and let it lay the same way and see how it does. Did that? Pulling in. Just pulling it. But yeah, I just be getting upset. I get upset about that behavior, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about that stuff. Like if people are like, well, if you're worried about those lures, you would do this. And there's some people who would they like to see you lose your tackle like that or something like that because they want those lures. So they'll be in a cultic group, get those lures from me. Like that's literally what happens. Get that lure from me, that thing, and they just want it so bad because they want it in their hand. And that's actually a kind of a klepto-y weird thing. Like I wouldn't be surprised if some of those jigs that got taken, it would end up in my ex's hand or the other dude's hand, and be like, that's something he made. Like I saw it on his channel. Like I wouldn't be surprised because that's the kind of thing some cultic people do. So they rather not pay you $2 for a jig that you could have just gave them. Like you could just hand it to them. They'd rather just take it from you when they could just hand you $1, like $2 at the hole, fishing hole. Like it's just weird. Like people who do that, and then they ruin your thing you're trying to do. At the fish hole, you're not even trying to do all this crazy. I don't stream like some of the other fishermen streamers. Anyways, I just kind of I don't know. Everybody has their way about how they go about stuff, and I just kind of go out there and fish and do stuff. Yeah, see, like sometimes people say when they feed at the top, they get kind of bloated if the food doesn't sink. You can tell by the balance. He's having a hard time because he ate a lot. He's the only one he ate a lot. He's I don't want him to get bloated. And you can tell by the other ones how they're swimming around. You can tell that one he's a little full. He's a little bit fuller than the rest. I can see that little pot belly on him. And you can see he's like going down. He's like, "Oh, I'm having trouble. Stomach's full." Got to keep an eye on him for a little bit. That's why I was like, let me turn this filter on. Make them get a workout because they ate that food. Let these fish swim around. Kelsey, what's up? I'm just sitting here with the fish and a glass of coffee. I got stuff to do tomorrow. Have to help out. So I'm going to be running around, driving around. But we're looking at the fish, and I'm talking about how the one might have ate too much. He's like greedy. He's like, there's like two of them. They're like the greediest fish in the whole school. But they're also the largest too. And the school reacts more to those, like these top three fish that are in here, and they move more with those three fish. It's kind of funny. Yeah, just looking at these fish. I need to. You can see that shaking. I need to. I need to like bolt down one part of the stand so it can't shake as much. I think the longer it sits there, the better it's gonna be. Fun stuff though. Little fishies, plants. I'll probably put. I think I'm gonna. I got three and we got 6 plants in there. 2 different species of the same plant, but they look a little different. I'm trying to think what other plant to add. I kind of want to add this one plant to the background back here. Hold on, let me loosen this. There's like a spot back there in that corner that sometimes I can kind of get in the view with this. And I want to put this. I kind of want to put this one plant back there because it's like a red and purple plant, but it doesn't grow too tall. But it would probably grow perfect in that corner because that light, because it needs a lot of light, and that's where the most light can get to besides the front corner. So we have natural light from the right front corner, and then full spectrum, almost natural light is on this left corner of this tank. So it's got 2 things going on where it's never directly in the sunlight basically, unless I have the light on. It's never directly in sunlight. It's always shaded on one side or another. And those plants like it where it's not full, just blaring light directly on them. The only plant that's getting that almost is this one. And still not quite getting that. Once I turn this light off, all the light comes from the right side. And it's not very much. It's very low light. So it's kind of a semi-low light, highlighted tank. So if I want to put anything that takes a lot of sunlight, it's going to have to be on this back corner or the right corner. Because that's where all the most of the light comes in. So I have to put like something that doesn't grow too tall on the right side, and then something that can grow taller but takes a lot of light in the back side. So then you'll have something growing up, and then you'll have like a patch, something with color in the front. I could do something like that, or the reverse, or the plant with lots of color would be back over here. So they'd be like red and purple back there. So I'm trying to decide how to do it. And it's gonna take a while for those plants to get healthy and set in and really start growing. They won't probably look, if I get them before winter, they probably won't look really good until like spring. They won't look like they get really settled in, get used to like the water chemistry and dosing and everything of the water, the chemistry. I don't think they'll look better till like look real good till like next spring or something. And these ones are doing their natural die off, the ones that are in there. And the die off is like slowing down now because the water's chemistry is balancing itself out. And I don't run any filter carbon to polish the water anymore. I did when I first started it. Now I don't run any filter carbon almost in there at all. It's all natural filtration, and I was able to do that in 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks almost. Just by the third week, it was done. Actually, it was a little faster than that, but I used the quick start and what's this other stuff? I use the quick start and that stress zymes, and that speeds up that process. And then after that, I just use the stress zymes when I change the water. But I have all three. I use the quick start, instantly let you allowed to add fish, and then I also do. I got the stress coat. That one's got the aloe vera in it. That's the one I started the tank with. Then when I did the water change, I used the quick start because the quick start's got the beneficial bacteria in it to start the tank up. This other one doesn't. It doesn't have it at all. The stress coat, but it's good for stress when the fish are stressed. And then the quick start has kind of got the same things in it. But this one is just supposed to limit like the ammonia kind of. So you gotta be careful with that one. So with that one, I only put it in one time, and then if I do a water change, but I don't. Most of the time, what I do is I do the stress coat for the water change, and then I use stress zymes in there, and then I dose the water for the plants, and that's it. The quick start, I don't even mess with it anymore. It's kind of when you first start it more to use, but you can use it every time you do a water change, just like you do the stress zymes. But I think the stress zymes is a little better. I think it's just a little bit better. Because this is helping with that bacteria. The other one is it just makes it so you can add more fish quicker and stuff. And I kind of like the tank to kind of figure itself out and not add too many things that are commercially made sometimes. What did we got? The other fish, we try to take something from that fish to chase it in. He found something, piece of food or something. The other fish are fighting that fish. Yep, I'm just watching the fish, talking about the fish. I know. Some people find fish sort of semi-boring. Some people are really into them, keeping them. These guys are pretty easy to keep, though. These kind of fish, like tetras and them little Congo tetras type stuff and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of easier to keep. Sometimes it says you need certain type of water to keep them. Sometimes you don't. You can your water, you can keep them. The pHs they can handle pretty well. Some of them can handle real wide range of pHs and stuff, and some fish can't. Some fish really actually react to it, and they'll die. They won't last. They won't live very long. They'll have like problems and stuff because they need that pH in water. So like some fish require more acidity, and some don't. This water is alkaline, but it has like a slight like acidic property to it for like when I first started it, it had a slight acidicness for like a couple, I don't even know, like a week or two when I first started it. So I was literally waiting for that to go away and had to filter the water and like keep changing the water. And before I could even, that had to somewhat go down just for when I added those fish and stuff in. And then once it settled in, there you go. So it was like certain fish are going to make it through that or not because it's still adjusting slightly for the biological bacteria and everything else in there. Plants are fine. The plants are just like, oh, we have to just adjust and endure this thing until the water settles in. Now the water's settling in. It's like clear. We look at that thumbnail from the other time. That was from when it was first started. So it was like foggy water looking weird and everything else, and now it's almost like crystal clear. There is a little film on the top. There is like a protein film already starting to film up on the top. So ooh. So I looked in there and I looked, and those duckweeds are actually those little blooms like opened up like wider than they were when you were in here. They actually grew. So I was like, oh, it likes that surface film sitting there. Pond scum, pond scum. That's they don't want a ton of water agitation like when this filter's running. They don't like that. Makes it hard for them to grow. They like it where that surface water stays still. So if you leave that filter on, that plant will literally float to where the dead water is, and that's where it'll start growing the most. So every time I look at it, the duckweed, the duckweed's usually over here where you can't see it in the corner floating on the surface. There's only like 3 pieces in there, but those 3 pieces can turn into like 100 if you let it sit long enough. But I don't have a light on the top where they can get tons of light, so they only get light from this corner, or the others coming from the other side of the sides. So I don't think it's gonna grow too big here. But it seems like it likes it so far. You guys won't be able to probably see it until it like coats the surface, if it does. But duckweed also causes a lot of problems sometimes for some tanks. Fun stuff, keeping the aquariums and stuff. But I used to keep a lot of the tank busters and stuff, arowanas and cichlids. People are like, you should just do that, show that. Talked to a few local pet store owners. They're like, some do YouTube. My buddies used to live here. He does YouTube. I don't know. He has some videos and stuff, and he's out in Ohio, and he does like fish rescue stuff. But he was going to school out here. Now he still does that out there. He went to high school together, and it's kind of cool when you see that, and you're like, hey, I know that person. I used to hang out with that person all the time. Someone was like, those people, and I'm like, I don't know. Somebody said that one time in one of the other chat one. And I said, well, what'd they do to you? I said, they ain't done nothing to me. I said, I just know him, and because we used to end up at the same events and stuff all the time, and so then like we just are like, oh, hey, what's up? And then he found out I like fish, and one day he was at a store, and that's how I bumped into him. I was like, hey, and I was like, hey, and he's like, oh, I was like, you work here? He's like, yeah. He said, what are you doing here? I was like, he said, He's like, what kind of fish you got? He's like, I didn't know you had fish. I said, oh, I said, yeah, you should come over. So at the time, I had like these fish in my basement. And then I had an arowana in my basement, and I had an arowana. I ended up with like a Sengalis and a Delzy, and then I was trying to get an Endy, and I couldn't get an Endy Bacard. I was trying to get one, and I could. No one had one, and then the ones they had were too big for the fish I was keeping, so they would kill my other fish, and my other fish was like, at the time that was a good price. My arowana was like $39, which X helped me get. I guess because she cared, she helped me get that fish. And she was like, "That's your birthday gift." I was like, "Okay." And so imagine that was my birthday gift, was this like arowana. It was like $39 arowana. That's a good girlfriend though, to do that part. So she wasn't totally horrible. That wasn't the last one. That was the other one. So that wasn't totally horrible of her. It was just the other things. It's like the cultic things. Certain things were covered up by these activities going on. And that's what was bothering me. That's what set off your alarm. That's what set off my alarms, but I just didn't say anything. I was just like, because half the time they would just lie to me in my face, people. So I was just like, whatever. It's like, okay. I'm like, care about you, I get. I don't know. Whatever. But weird. It's just weird to me. Like, I always thought it was weird. And I wasn't perfect either, and stuff, but I realized like I'm not doing all this stuff that this woman's doing to me, like and things I don't know. Like I'm not doing all this crazy shit. And but that was a cool thing. I did get that. We got the fish, and I like what it was so long ago, so young when that happened. And I put all the I got the money together. And I went. To get, she's like, I'll get the fish in there eventually for you if you get the tank. So I figured out how to get all my money and got these tanks. And then I just started finding tanks, and the next thing you know, I had all these tanks and fish, fish everywhere. And like I had breeders of Keelys, and I had like three different species of Keeley. Yeah, three different species of Keelys at one point. No, four different, almost four different species of Keelys. And I had clown Keelys, gold wonders, Australia, the lyre tail gold, like the lyre tail, like the gold, I guess they were calling them, or gold orange looking. And then I had, I used to keep the chocolate uh, Australians, and then these other ones I got eventually later. But yeah, I used to keep all kind of stuff, and that was fun times. Keeping fish is it's kind of relaxing too. When you get the tank all set up like you want it to be. Yeah, they're just like on the prowl for any kind of crumbs right now. It's kind of funny. They're even going to the bottom line. You guys can't see it on there, but they're like cruising like in a little pack. Like there's like a little pack of three or four, and they're going under the log here, and they're looking for pieces of food. It's kind of funny. You might be able to see them if I can get the lighting kind of to light right. You might be able to make them out when they swim underneath there. But they're trying to food that's left. You see them down there. See them? They kind of came across in like a little mini. It was kind of funny. Kind of a neat thing to watch. Like, oh look at them. Now there's just not tons of food on the surface. They're kind of like prowling around like little mini packs around the tank. It's kind of funny. Watch their behavior. Yeah, so for some people it's boring to watch them, but for me, sometimes you learn stuff just by sitting there watching them. They say like in the store, like, oh, they're just a schooling fish. But then if you sit there and watch them, or if you have other fish in there with them, you'll watch like this whole like, just like you're walking in the city, you see a whole community of things happening, going on, all in one place. The little ones are doing good. They're not getting near that filter, so that's good. Stuff to do it now. Yeah. So yeah, I'm actually streaming this tank more often, pretty much, as it just kind of as we adjust it with the plants and stuff. Just buy a few plants here and there. I don't want it to be too planted. I just want like probably get like a couple more plants that might look cool. I think maybe one or two. That'll be it. Let them just kind of let it be like that. Because this is not the biggest tank, the bottom tank space, especially since I put that log across there. But I put that because I was like, well, if I get like a little small species of catfish, they'll probably most likely be up under that log in the shade, or if I get shrimp, other kind of shrimp to go in there. But other than that, yeah, fishies. I don't know everything about these fish. I'm not an expert, but I have kept fish for a long time when I was younger. And but most of the stuff I kept was the more exotic, the really exotic, like bigger, larger predatory fish. But I did breed fish for a little bit. They just said bring them in for store credit if you get a bunch of babies. And I was like, oh, they're like that's about all we're gonna do. And then we have to have space for them. So I'm like, oh. But the ones I was breeding were ones that they don't keep often. So, and some of these stores don't keep often that species. So that's why I was breeding. That's why I was breeding them because I was like, nobody keeps those hardly. They don't keep that species very often, and they look really cool. And you can keep them in a smaller tank like this. You can keep quite a few of them, and they're a type of Keeley. And if you put the right stuff in there, they'll just breed in there. But the thing is, they eat their babies. Some species don't eat their babies as much. They don't care for to eat their babies. Some species do. Some species of these fish really do. They're like some of those guppies, live bears. That's what they do. Mollies too. Sometimes they do that. Like they'll drop the babies and then just start eating them. Like they just gave birth to their baby young, and then they'll start trying to eat them. Unless you got to put like you either gotta put them in like a birthing thing so that you can get the babies, separate them, or you gotta put like a ton of plants so the babies can hide from the parents, so the parents won't eat them. So at least some of them have, so they have a chance to survive. And if you leave them like that, eventually some of those babies will start surviving. And so then you'll just have a continuous guppy factory in your fish tank. And then all you have to do is just add newer ones from different places sometimes just to change the gene pool in your tank a little bit. That's about it. And then you can have guppies for a long time. Like years and years of guppies will just keep happening. We just have tons of generations of guppies. Because guppies, I think, only live like 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, or something. So they only live a couple years. So it's one of those fishes. That's what you should do, so you don't have to keep buying guppies. And then if you need something for your fish, it help you can maybe give guppies to the store. But they always have guppies usually. Most stores always have guppies because it's a popular fish. Water tinkling, yeah. Yeah, the only reason why I don't leave the sound on, I always turn it off because there's other folks moving through this area, so I don't want to leave it on all the time. But I know it's hearing the filter is kind of like soothing, like a little stream and water, creek, like a creek bed or something. Hello, I see you. I see you there. Yeah, I was just standing here talking about it. Yeah, they're all in the back right now, screwed up in one corner in the back. They're still looking for food. That one is greedy, but first one, it's that one. I guess it's like three of them. They like leave the those tetras in here. So like, as soon as I walk up, he's like, "That's the first fish to move," and that's in a school of fish. It's the first one to react to me to my movements in the room. Yeah, they do. That's exactly what I was talking about. Like, that's why I had the other ones in here, but they were feeder guppies, so they weren't like in the healthiest shape. So literally, it was like trying to hardy. It literally was like trying to hardy them up before the water cycle, like hardying them up while the water was get ready to cycle. So there was like a million getting ready to build up. So I was trying to beef them up so they'd be healthy enough to be able to withstand that because they were mostly feeder. They were only feeder guppies. They were like feeder enders guppies basically. like a cross between the thing, the wild guppies, and something else. There's so they were like $1 for like four of them, and so I started out with those in there, and then and I got two like cobra guppies just to see, and I had some pretty. There were some pretty male endlers in there that actually got out of there, out of the feeder guppy tank. I was like, oh, there was a couple endlers in there that were really pretty looking. The male endlers were really had some really cool colors. So if they would have stayed, been able to keep them to this point, then I would just let them stay and see if they'd start breeding and then just see what kind of colors combinations would have came out of those because there was like because I got two fancy ones that were cobra endlers. So I was just gonna leave, or yeah, I was just gonna leave them and let them mingle with those other endlers, the little feeder ones that were they just look kind of like a purple color to them, and then the cobras were like the yellow, kind of like the cobra guppies. They were like a yellow and had these cool bars on them and stuff. Oh no, this water cycle, and they just couldn't make it through that water cycle because they were already had like a fin rot to it. One started rubbing on everything, so I knew it had ick, which I was aware of it. But and then the next time I went, they put a drop of the one guy was like, he put a drop of quick cure in there. I was like, you should have put it on those feeder guppies. Technically, because that would have been better. Because then, because I could let them sit in the bag and float it, and then they'll be in like a bath of that cure. It's just a little bit, just for the trip home, and then that would have probably killed most of the any ick or anything that was in that water too. And then when I put them in, then it would have a little less problem. But a couple of them started rubbing and stuff immediately, so I knew they had ick. And then I saw the fin rot on one of them, and I was like, yeah, like 3 of these are probably going to be gone, and that's literally what happened. So like, ended up with like only two of the real fancy ones living, and then no, yeah, I had no, yeah, I ended up no four. It was four, and it was four. So it was like 2 and 2, and then those were really weak looking fish too. They were like sick looking kind of. The other ones were more where I got them from too, and that was a different store. So I was like, man, this is what they have available, and I didn't want to buy the other. They didn't have anything else at this other store, but they did at this other one. And I was like, well, I'm not driving this. It's a whole thing. It's like, I'm not. There's another store, but I'm not driving. It's like I'm not driving 45 minutes out of way out to this. I used to do that to get fish and stuff. Now I'm just like, if they have this, they have this. If they don't, they don't. I'll just wait. Look, I'm not gonna. Or if I really want it that bad, I'll order certain species that I want. Beta. Had betas before too. Someone gifted me betas before, and I didn't want it. I didn't want them at first, and then I ended up with kind of gifted betas for a while. They were really large betas, but they were fed live food a lot, so they got really large. Like they're fed natural food a lot, so they got big in this certain type of flake food, so they got really big, and they were trying to breed and everything, a male and a female. Yeah, and literally they were staying in the same tank together. They weren't fighting or anything. They were basically like a pair, and they were fine with being in the same tank together. There's a male and a female one. I forget. I think they were the long fin regular thing. I don't remember. I don't think they were moon betas. I don't remember which one they were, but my friend gave them to me. I kept them for a while, and then one day, the cat tried to get one and scoop them out of the tank. Tried to get one out of the tank. I had them in this like bowl like thing, and I had it in a room where no animals could get to it. And one day, like I went somewhere, and someone was like, "Hey, you better get the cat trying to scoop that fish out of there. It's on the floor somewhere." And they found it and put it back in it survived. It survived, but like usually they'll die or sometimes from stuff like that. But that fish still survived for another year or so after that. So some fish can be really hardy. If you get hardier, if you feed them the right food, they'll get tougher, and they will adjust to the water that you have in your area sometimes. And some fish just can't. because you have to have a certain pH and you need to make the water sit right. Yeah, they are. Cats are mischievous. That was that's one of the shorts I haven't put up of the cat we used to have. I was planning to do it. I have all these cool pictures, like goofy pictures of him. So I was like, this would be funny to make like a little video about him, like a little short about him. And then I might do a short about the dog, this dog we got right now, because I noticed she did something really cool this morning, and I was like, hey, that'd be a cool short video. That'd be like a cool video to show somebody like, look at this dog doing this goofy thing. But yeah, so let me turn this on. Let these fish can swim around in this. So yeah, this the filter in here do like it does uh 30 gallons an hour. Yeah, 30 gallons an hour. I think I was talking about before. 30 gallons an hour. The filters on this, and this is only like a boat. It's a boat front. I want to say it's 10 gallons because when I do 5 gallons of water, it's almost half empty. So I want to say it's a slightly over 10 gallons because of the bow front to it. I think that gives it like a little bit extra water, like a gallon or two extra. And it's got a very slight bow front to it. That's kind of why I picked it for this because it's got a rounded front versus straight flat. It kind of makes it a little difficult kind of for the glare, but where this thing is located, there's gonna be sunlight hitting one direction and light hitting another direction all the time anyway. It's always gonna be one side and the other side. So it's gonna sounds like bow front. Get a bow, use the bow front tank. But it's got a slight bow to it. It's not too big. It's a Fluval tank. And I was like, well, I should put new lights under the hood, but under this hood, and nah, just use a light I already have from another tank that got a plant grow light for aquatic plants on it, and I'll just put it up higher, away from it, and give it the light for the plants, so it's not just intense light. Because these plants don't, they do better. They can do good with higher light source, but they're just more of a shaded kind of slightly shaded plant. They seem to do better like a shade to them. It's not direct light on them. That one leaf is is getting ready to drop that plant back there too. Keep watching that one because it's melting slightly. Yeah, they're kind of coming down in that bottom down there, and they're looking for the food I fed them a little while ago. So now they're like, there's no food at the surface, so they're kind of like rolling around underneath this log back and forth. They're trying to, they're hoping they can find something on the bottom they can pick up. That's why I was like, yeah, probably should get catfish just so because I noticed these guys actually will go down, hitting like a little school and look down through the gravel and cruise down through the gravel. I was like, oh, you'll see like three or four of them just be trying to look for flakes of food that sunk down. So we'll try not to feed them too much because they'll actually will forage near the bottom looking for stuff. No, I just called them Tetris. I did name all my other fish. When I had when I was engaged, whatever you want to call that, we did name almost every fish in there, and I was just like, I don't like naming them all, because I used to name them my other fish when I would get them. I would name them. When I got the big fish, I would name them, and then that one I think we had like 13, 14, 15 fish. There's like 15 fish in that tank, and there was they all had names. Fuego was like an Oscar because he was a tiger Oscar. There was a bunch. There was a bunch of stuff in there. There was bullseye catfish in there. There was albino. There was an albino Oscar in there, like or albino. I think it was an albino red. That was an albino red. And the other one was just a fire tiger. So he was like Fuego was fire tiger. So he was like black and orange. And we named those. It was Fuego and oh, gosh, and then we had a Jack Dempsey. Uh, and we had this other one, so we called them Dooney and Burke because they were, yeah, we had names for all these different ones because that was her idea. Obviously, I don't have a Birkin bag. What was that? Oh, that was you. That's funny. Yeah, we had names for all the fish and stuff. But these ones, it's hard to name them because they look all alike. They're schooling fish, and they're always kind of bunched up in little patchy schools. So, but after looking at them enough, I can kind of tell who's the bigger fish, who's the more greedier fish after the last couple of weeks of them being in here. And that's what I was talking about. There's like three of them. I'm like they're like the leaders of the. They're like the leaders of the school in a way when it's feeding time, and and when I come in here, those fish react first, and then the other fish go, oh what, oh, and they follow the lead of those three fish, and they're the biggest ones of the school pretty much, of all the ones in here. But when those ones move, they all kind of react to them because they know where the food is, so that's why they're the biggest ones, and they're usually the most greedy, and one of them is really greedy. And so I have to be careful when I feed because that one's the first one to the food. That fish is the very first fish to the food every time, almost every time. That one and this other one. So I have to be careful with the feeding because that one is learned like really quickly when it's feeding time, like faster than all the other ones. And it's in the back corner right now looking around. He's, uh, he's a food. It's a foodie. That fish is a foodie. The other ones are in a school to the left. Let's see if they'll stay there. Or to the right. See if they'll stay there. See them coming into view. They just been hovering right there this whole time. Like, because I'm standing here at the front of the glass because they see me standing here. You see how they're just sitting there? They're just schooled up, just hovering because I'm standing right here. They're like thinking I'm going to put something in there. So they schooled up, and then they're just like, all right, he's moving around right there. It's like so they're just hanging out right here. Because they feel me walking, moving around, the vibration. And they're like, where's the food, bro? Like, I already fed you. Yeah, they know the movement. Like, now they know when you open the lid. They know, like, something's about to happen. Like, the food's about to come. So they like to hang right in this spot to the right. Because they're waiting, they're hoping I'll come and drop food in. So they just school up sometimes right there, and they just kind of hang there. It's kind of, and so when I walk in, they're all pressed up to the glass, like, oh, they feel the vibration, they dart over, and then they just kind of school up right there. It's kind of funny. I haven't been able to. It's kind of goofy. Fish. They're doing fish business, and I should I should that's why I wish I could get a different view so you can see that happening. Because there's usually they're split into two schools, kind of, and then sometimes they split into three. Like three small fish, there'll be like three fish, two fish, and then three fish, and then they'll join up back up. And it'll be like five in front, hovering like that because they're thinking there's food. Maybe food will come, and then the other ones will just be cruising around. But as you can see, they keep coming to this side. Nice. But they keep coming to the right side, and then they will kind of school up here because they think I'm gonna feed them. They see my hand right now. So they think they're gonna get something. So they're all bunching up. But they get used to you feeding them, and they get conditioned, and then they know where to go in the tank. It's kind of funny. Fish tank, fishies. Yeah, and they start kind of knowing where to go for the food at, and know the sound of you, and walk through the house. I used to have an Oscar. He knew the sound of my steps down the stairs. So when I come downstairs, I come down the stairs a certain, and so that Oscar knew how I sounded when I come down the stairs versus somebody else. And so people would come down to look at that fish in that basement, and then and this was when I was like 20 or something, 19. They would want to look at this fish in this basement, and when they would come down there, the fish would lay on his side like something's wrong with him, like he was dying. And your fish is dead, and I was like, I don't think so. Then I go in there, I sound different when I go down the stairs, and the fish is just swimming around like normal. They're like, what the heck? I said, yeah, that fish plays possum like that. If he doesn't like something, that fish had personalities. So if he didn't like something, even inside the room, like people moving around in the room, he would lay on his side like he's dying. They're actually pretty inquisitive, kind of. They're actually like take interest to people, but you have to be careful because they got a beak. They're pretty interactive, actually, pufferfish, but they got a beak on them, so you got to be careful. And some pufferfish aren't interactive like certain species aren't. They're actually really like predatory, super predatory. Some of them are super predatory. So if you put any kind of fish, even fish that are same size, some of those pufferfish will just tear them to bits because they have that beak. They have that beak on them. Yeah, because I almost got what do you call a Fahaka puffer, and I almost got a Fahaka puffer, and then at one point I almost got this other one because I never seen that kind of puffer before. Those are both brackish water, so they're not really salt. They're brackish water, so they're like freshwater puffers basically. Yeah, those puffer fish can take a piece of meat out. They can even yeah, even the smaller ones. They can take a little. That little beak is real. That beak they got on them is real. Even if it's just a pet fish, like that thing is. It's meant for that fish to be able to eat what it eats and crunch on clamshells and do all that kind of stuff in the rivers and stuff and in the ocean too. So it's like, you gotta be careful if you get one of those. Yeah, there's like was that Mabu puffers? Those are the big ones that get really big. And then the Fahaka puffer, Fahakara puffer is like got bars on it and it's kind of like a green to them, and they get a little bit smaller. But those are both brackish water, and there's another one, and it's like red looking. But those ones like to bury themselves in the gravel, and they're like more like a ambush hunter. Where they're like they don't have that puppy doggy behavior, I guess you'd say. But the Oaxaca puffers can be kind of mean too. Those can be kind of mean too. Mubus are kind of good, can be mean, but I think they're a little bit more calmer than the other two I'm talking about. Puffer fish, if they're freshwater ones. But the Mabus get really big, like 75-gallon minimum for just one. Well, at adult, like getting into adult size of one of those fish. Yeah, I that's what I'm stuck with. freshwater pretty much. People have said, "Hey, just get the small one and maintain that, and get like a couple of saltwater things and just check it out." And I was like, "Yeah, I wanted this kind," and they're like, "No, those get too big." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the thing. I wanted like a type of grouper, a small grouper," and they're like, "No, that's gonna be bigger." They're like, "You can keep it in 75 gallon, but it's gonna get too big for that." I was like, I said, "I know it's an ocean fish. It's not gonna." So some stuff I was like, "Yeah, I wouldn't want to." It's beautiful if you can do it though, and you have the money to be able to keep something like that in your house, which some people do. I've seen it. And when I'm in Vegas, the one woman's bathroom has a fish tank in it. Don't ask me how I know. No, I was on the trip, and then Max was like, "Hey, you want to see this?" And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "I'm in Vegas." And she's like, "Come in the girls' women's bathroom with me." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Hold on." I said, "Is there anybody in there? What's going on here?" And then she was like, "I want to show you something because I know you like this. Come look at this." And then like showed me, and it was in the bathroom. Like this fish tank was built into the bathroom at that particular casino. It was pretty dope, and they were like saltwater fish, I think, too. So it was pretty dope. Yeah, it is crazy. The groupers and stuff, they get pretty large. I was like, I don't know. Like, puffers are pretty smart too. Actually, certain puffer fish are really smart. They actually kind of they're kind of intelligent in a way. I mean, obviously they blow up like a thing basketball to basically keep predators from eating them. That's a pretty smart thing to do. Most fish won't try to eat a puffer fish. There's only a few fish that would actually try to eat puffer fish that actually will eat them or even attempt to eat them. Yeah, only a few fish that actually we give those a go to try to eat those. Yeah, I was like, I came up here. I was like, let me just get this coffee and this thing. I was just ranting, boy. I was like, I can't believe this stuff. Some people was like, is that secrets? It's like, it's not secrets. Some of that stuff is just like it was blatant. It's blatantly being done in front of your face, and then we're just people just I don't know what you're talking about stuff on. Yeah, but these are just little tetras, little neon tetras. But sometimes, because there's another type of tetra that looks like this. I don't know. They call them cardinal tetras or neon tetras, but there's actually two types of them that look like this color, but they're different. There's actually another type, and they look similar. But I know when I got these, they're like, no picking out any specific ones, and I was like, well, I wasn't expecting to anyways, because I was picking out of a school, 40 fish or something, 30, 40 or something too. I was just like, grab them. I said, grab me like five, grab me like another five. Okay. I'm trying to decide like, should I add a few more or no? You know, the old adage is 1 inch of fish per gallon of water. And if you stick to that rule as a general rule, you'll never have to overstock your fish tank. But that's just like I like to use that rule when I first start the tank, and then once I get the filtration going good, and I get my plants kind of setting in, then I can add more fish, a little bit overstock slightly, and then I can add like algae eater. Once that starts getting in a little bit on the glass, I can add something that eats algae, and then I can add in uh, add the catfishing before that probably, and get could get them small algae eater in here. There's already algae on here on this glass, but you can't see it. It's brown algae. I'm just waiting a little bit longer, and then it can actually put like an algae. So the leaves will actually always get light on them because that algae eater will get on those leaves and eat that algae off. Yeah, yeah. Those are the yeah. I had those two common, the common ones. They get real big. I had a common Plecostomus, a couple. I've had a couple of them, and they grow fast, really fast. Like, like they caught up with a lot of. They caught up with a lot of. They actually have a different growth spurt point. So when they're little, they just seem like they're gonna stay little, but once they hit a certain size, then they hit like a growth spurt. So that's something to look at if you ever buy a common Plecostomus, just a common one, because that's the one that's gonna grow 12 inches longer, bigger than that. Them things can grow like bigger than 12 inches long. I've had a couple of those, and outgrew my Oscar on those, and actually would get into fights with the fish, the predatory fish. That and it was funny because it's an armored catfish, so they can't do anything. He just like bumped them out of the way. It was really funny. I was like, that Plecostomus is kind of got an attitude. Yeah, they might, and you don't want your turtle trying to eat, one of those Plecostomus because they got spines. They have like barbed spines on the top top fin and on the side, and like little spikes on the side of their body. Actually, and it doesn't look like they are, but if you touch them with your hand, it's like sandpaper. It can like mess up your hand and like break the skin. Like they're like just it's like they're just armored. They're armored plated. So even those side fins, if like if you try to get them net them sometimes, like in a regular net, when they reach a certain size, you a soft net, you're not gonna be able to net them. They're gonna get tangled in the net. Certain catfish too, because they have barbs. You'll get them tangled in a regular aquarium net real quick, and you'll be upset because you'll be trying to untangle this catfish that's shooting its spines out everywhere, and you might get jabbed. And it's not fun. Or you'll damage their fins trying to get the barbs out of the net, which has happened to me once. Where I had netted them one time before, and it was fine. And once it reached a certain size, when I tried to net it, those barbs just caught the net like nothing. And he was just hanging from the net. Like I didn't really get to even scoop him. The barbs caught the net. Like so, I just like flipped it over. He's in the net. Like oh no! I was like oh, and I had to literally get I had to get like a pair of pliers. No joke, to get this fish out of the net because the barbs were so stuck in the seams of this net. I literally of the net I had to grab the pliers to the top fin and pull the net away from the barb of the catfish because its barb was that tough. And put it back in the tank. I changed the because I was changing the water and stuff, and put them back in the tank. Put like some stress stuff in there, and that thing was fine. Those and it was one of those armor plated catfish. And he's like, yeah, some of those catfish are pretty tough, but they can get you. I wouldn't. I'd be afraid the turtle would eat it, eat it too, and like, or get one of those barbs, and then it would kill the turtle. I'd be afraid of that happening. Yeah, I've only had one turtle had a turtle for a little bit. That technically I wasn't supposed to have it. But I found that out later. Wasn't supposed to have that turtle at the time, but I had them. Yeah, just these little fishies. I think yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I get this plant, that plant. That's like I think I'm gonna get those like end of the month, maybe in a couple of weeks. I don't know. Maybe in a couple of weeks. That frustrated me. I said, man, I gotta tie this thing again. Yeah, it's like whatever. It's like people try to ruin they try to ruin your little fishing. So why do you want to ruin fishing for people? Yeah, try to ruin your fun. You just doing your own shit. But just like before, they messed with something, and I just created something else out of what was. I created something else. Created another pattern, another jig, different type of jig from what was taken and done. But this, I might have other ones that I have that'll work. I have other ones that are similar to those too. Like I made sure to leave myself a couple. It's like make sure you leave yourself like this because those they might try to take that thing, see if they can catch something with it. Someone might try that. But I did tie the one, a couple of them on live stream. So just that's the thing too. I tied a couple on live stream that people can go back and watch actually. So it's not like they couldn't go look at that and tie them themselves. They probably just were like, we ain't doing that. And try to take you and try them out ourselves and see if they work. Still don't matter though. Yeah, I'm taking things from you. I never took anything from those people. Or taking things from you. See, that's what I'm trying to say. These people will hear something that they from the little evil one, and then you know they'll they'll be like thinking that's true because the evil one listens in on everybody's house conversations using governmental things or possibly illegal stuff. So think about that. If someone can do that to you, and then relay something to someone else, and then make up a story to them, and then they do something weird like that to you, and then you're sitting there like, why are you doing this again? But you know who's the one who commanded them to do that, and then you got someone else telling you. Think about this. Someone else tells you that doesn't happen, and you're like, yeah, that's exactly how it happens. Like, so if you know that, you're very aware of society and people, and some people don't like it. They don't like it when you're able to see that, and they know, and you're like, well, you know that person moves around that way, dark forces or principalities sometimes, and you're just kind of like, well, okay, leave me alone. But then they have something out on you, and I think some of these people try to get people out of here for money and just random weird shit. Like I think it's just they just have a thing where they're fixated on certain people because of something you demonstrated or did or and then so for them it's like let's see if we can take things away from them so they can't have or do or let's make them fight for all this weird it's weird behavior that they do and it like so like just like me tying these lures or something like oh, you shouldn't be able to you know what I mean it's like what you can do that let's make that weird for you oh you said something about that let's do that like that's kind of the behavior that some of these people do and then they relay things and they'll make it so it's hard for you to like you'll say you could be in your house and be like I hope I can find these hope no one takes them all and then they'll tell relay through the thing make sure everybody takes all that the particular thing you're planning on buying or something like that's the kind of petty behavior they'll do and then in the same time then they'll reverse something else and be like here well these things are available for you to get but not that item that you really do want so they'll force you to do that and then that item you really do want one of them fools who finds out you think that item is good will go try to get that item and then be like, oh, look, let me see what's all the hell about it. Because you wanted it so bad. So they need to get it before you get it. Or they need to do something weird before you do. Like, do something else better. Like, better. Like, I'm going to do this. That's what some of them act like who have the power to listen in. Sometimes they do weird shit like that. So, like, you'll be like, how come I couldn't get this and it was just here and there was tons of them. And now all of a sudden there's not tons of them on the show. It's like it's like a gold rush happened and everybody knew to go there to get those. That's the kind of crap they'll do too. To just like, and if you pay attention, you'll be all upset because you'll be like, because you'll know that in any other scenario, those items would have been there. You know what I mean? And then you come back. I've done this and left, and then came back to the same store like later that day, and then those items were all of a sudden were back on the shelf. And I was like, I know these were here yesterday. They was full. Like, now they're back up here. Like, wait a minute. It was like they took them down because I was coming. It was weird, and I knew it, and it happened again somewhere else one time, and I was like, yeah, these are people messing with people, and you just you're supposed to pretend like you don't realize it. That's what you're supposed to do. So that's part of it. So like you're supposed to just pretend like you don't see it, but really they did that because of you, and they heard something, and then they decided to make that event happen to you in the store, and they got people in the store and they had them do this weird stuff. It sounds weird to just talk about it like that. Like it doesn't sound normal, but that's truthfully the behavior when you're dealing with a group that can use walkie talkies and talk to each other and relay messages. And people are using and all this Snapchat, and we got WhatsApp and all this other stuff. They can be just maybe having group chats on there and encrypted and doing weird stuff. But that's watched too. That's the thing. Even when they think that's not watched, it's watched too. So it's like everything you think isn't what it is. So even the ones doing the bad stuff, some of the bad things, like you're like, how the hell they're being watched too. They just might not be getting harassed but like I have, so or something. But they be getting watched too, and they don't think they are, and harassed at times, and they just don't think they are. They just don't think it's. They think because they're part of that thing that can't happen to them too. And so I always tell people it can happen to you kind of too. Just anybody, any person. I don't care if you're involved with cult or not a cult. Like anything weird stuff can happen like that, and you don't know what's why. Because like sometimes some of those people they get so weird about their power they have, that's what they'll do too. So like somebody pissed them off, or they got your girlfriend to cheat on with them or something, but since they're part of the cult group and they hold power a little bit, they can get those people to try to get after you because you're still talking to her, and you won't, because that person feels like you should leave her alone or something, and then she might be involved in it too, and you just don't know. So that's kind of the behaviors I've seen happen too. And next thing you know, you're getting harassed and you don't even know why. You're like, why is this happening? You're like, you're not talking to that woman no more, but you're still getting like harassed and people saying weird comments to you on the street. Yeah. I had someone come up to me, don't let it happen again. One time, and I was like, what happened again? I was like, what is going on? And then someone else was like, yeah, better not do that again. And I'm like, what did I do? Didn't do anything because the woman decided to leave. So that's my fault that she left and that she cheated and did all these other things and it was tied to that group. And she had no free will on certain things, but because she decided to go because she wanted things to be a certain way, but she showed her hand kind of like certain things and wouldn't be honest about certain things. So it's kind of like somehow I became like a target at that point in time, right after dating her for like a few little months. And I just went about my business and I ended up going to school after that. But that was something that happened to me. And that person was crying. That person I was with was crying because they knew there was some weird stuff. But called me a month later crying about something that happened to her. I don't know. I never did get to find out what that was. The weird behaviors that happened, but I guarantee it was something cultic shit that they did towards her or family or something shit. I bet you it was. Because she called me crying one day. I was like, what the heck's going on here? And I was like, uh-oh. But I was already moved on and going with somebody else at the time. I was literally moving in. Like I just moved in. Well, I don't know. Like that one was I would say that one was still nicer than the last one. Less messier with how she was treating me than the last one. I'll say that. I probably would have felt better being engaged to that one than the last one I just had. I would have probably felt better about that. A little bit better about that. But there were some things going on that I started picking up on, and I was just like, there's some cultic thing. And she was like, you don't know. Like she didn't understand that I knew stuff. So she thought I just knew a few things, and I told her what happened to me, and she didn't realize how bad, how traumatizing that event was, being put in the hospital from someone doing something to you, and you didn't do nothing. this thing's plotted out to happen to you. And so she was like, oh, okay. And then she was like, how come you? I said, I told her the magic of this, and I don't think she believed me. I was like, the magic of cocoa butter. Like, I'm not even lying. Like, the doctors literally said, "What did you do?" So here's my list of healthy things that I did to like try to heal my body with what they had done, what had happened internally. That's what I did. And so now I have to kind of go back to part of that. I've been trying to go back to some of that. Gotta have kombucha, green tea. It's okay to have coffee, and then water. But the thing is, don't drink a ton of soda. Don't drink a ton of soda. Try not to eat tons of candy. That's what I'm trying to do. But I like candy. But that's one of the things for that healing and getting to like jumpstart certain stuff. You need to drink some green tea. Don't and you can. Most people don't like adding. Don't want to not add sugar to their green tea. They gotta add sugar to it. Part of that's part of it too. Like don't have too much sugar. Only try to eat mostly natural sugars or small. If it's not natural sugar, small amount, and that helps with like jump starting the healing stuff and getting your body to respond to certain things. And when you start working out, your body will like respond. Like if you can, even if you can only do a little bit of something, you've lost a step. Your body will actually still respond. It just won't respond the same way it did 10 years ago. It may be a little harder to get to a certain point, but once you start getting close to there, it gets a little easier. You're just a step behind where you were because you weren't working out or doing anything, or you're poisoned. Like they even add things into you. Kind of. Oh, it is. But it does get kind of weird in the streets. I don't know though. It's like it makes you wonder, like if they would have, like if I would, if they would, if those two, one of them would have known every little piece that I've broken down on some of my life things, the different pieces of different things, would they even be able to? Could they handle that as being true, or would they just think that I'm full of crap? It's like I had there's no reason to tell some person you're with all that kind of stuff sometimes. Like if that was the first thing I led with, oh yeah, so when I was a kid, yeah, this person came in my room and I was this girl and like that's the first thing. And then this other thing happened in high school, like, and then this one person did this to me, like I don't know, like and I didn't talk about that kind of stuff because it was like this is not. It was like what is I gonna do with for that relationship? But now when I think about it, like, yeah, they probably should have known about that. I should have told them that like this other events also happened too. So then maybe they wouldn't have done what they did to me at the end of those relationships. They might have had some. Oh, I feel bad for him. At least like so they wouldn't just ripped me apart. Like nothing ever horrible's ever happened to me. They might not have done that. But I was just like, no, like I'm not gonna. I was taught like just don't talk about that stuff that they were done to me like that. And now I'm just like I don't care. I'm saying like hey, this and this is why I act like I act. So I didn't think I'm perfect person or anything. Just after having that type of stuff happen, you start to be real nice to most people, and because you're just like you know the truth behind certain things that happen. What's up, Nimby? Yeah, it's just chatting in his home about fishes and little fishes are schooling around in here. They're acting like they're little mini. They're kind of schooling in this corner right here. That's why it's like I need that LED light, that one little LED light. And you can really see that when they kind of do this little weird schooling thing they do. And they're just kind of hovering all over but they kind of go in that spot because that's right almost where the food comes in. So they'll kind of school up and just hang right there, especially when the filter's on, because they like to kind of sit in the current and they know that food comes right there, right back. What did that? When he came in here and looked at the stream, and one person had their they have some fish tanks or something. I'll take a look in there at their stream, see what they got. Yeah, you can see like they kind of sit right in that spot. And then it's like, hey, we're right here. And they just kind of play around in the current. I'll give you the fish play by play. The aquatic fish play by play. Eventually, I'm gonna have to shut the filter down. But I needed it to run for at least an hour. Needed to run for at least an hour. But it's all biological filtration. All the all the all the filter, all the carbon. I took those out for now. Also, those were the one where those fish had the fungus in them. different things. So I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to like, kind of don't want to rinse them because I don't want to kill all the bacteria on there, but at the same time, like, kind of want to because of that factor. I don't want to reintroduce something I that was that was eradicated quickly. That came with those fish that were in here prior. And I didn't use quick cure. There was quick cure in the one of the fish when I got these one. There's quick cure in both of them. So I think that got rid of most of any chance of any ick being in there. And then I did a little bit of extra salt when I did the water change. It's just a dash more salt than usual. I usually only do what like I usually only do like when I do my water change. I only do like I have it on this one written down. Yeah, I only do like 1 tablespoon, like a scoop of salt, 1 tablespoon, and I dilute that. Put that in the water. Fill the jug up with water. First, I dechlorinate it. Put that salt in there. Spin it around. Stir that up. Dose that water with the plant fertilizers and the potassium and a little bit of iron. Sometimes I do a little bit of iron too. Iron helps a little bit if you're getting like the brown. I think if you're getting like brown, I think the potassium. I think it's brown, and then that brown in color, it'll turn it from brown and make the plants less brown. That wilting thing going on. I think it's the iron and then the potassium. Those are the two that kind of help with that. Yeah, like yeah, you'll see like yellowing. And this one was trying to do it and it came in, but these ones are doing that. These smaller ones, and then this one had one wilt back, and now it's taking hold. This little plant that's right here, it's actually taking hold. It's just been floating around, but it had a leaf and it's wilting that one leaf. I think one of them has a plant trying to throw off, but the one in the back has a plant trying to drop also. So I was like, "Ooh, it's gonna drop a plant too." So, yeah, so that's the cool thing about Java Fern. Makes more plants pretty easily, so you can end up with a lot of Java Fern if you do it right. But they don't grow super fast. So if you put a little CO2 or something in there, they'll grow fast. It'll grow pretty fast. When it really gets growing, though, I think I talked about it already. You'll see if it's got the right water chemistry for the plants. You'll see those plants is called pearling. You'll see, I said it before. It's called pearling. So you'll see these pearls come like little bubbles that look like pearls coming off the plant because the plant's putting out oxygen. But you'll see it visually be able to see the plant giving out oxygen into the water because there's so much carbon dioxide that it's in nutrients it's taken in. It's on overload growth when it does that, and that means you're giving tons of the right amount of light. It's getting CO2. It's getting every mineral that it does need, and it's using every mineral to just grow as much as it wants to grow. So that's like optimal growing aquatic plants when you grow them that way. I've only done that a couple times for small setups, and it was difficult with the fish when it had a CO2 setup on it. You have to be really careful how you adjust that to not mess up your fish. Because at night, the plants give off CO2 back, give off slight back amount of CO2, and so you should turn your CO2 down or off completely off. Because at night, you you should pretty much only dose the CO2 in the day. That's what I would do. Trying to get optimal growth at that time, or you have settings so you can manage all that stuff. But some people don't want to spend all that money on that. So the way I had it, miniature CO2 canisters that you puncture, and then it was like designed to hold these plant CO2 canister things. You run it into the water, connect a bubble counter or a diffuser, and then you count the bubbles so you know how much CO2 should be going into the water column, and then you slow down the counter so it's every so many seconds that, and that's how you gauge how much CO2 should be going in there. And every time you do that, you have to do it that way. You have to like that one. You have to set it, and so it's annoying to reset it back to that count. So, but yeah, I had actual CO2 canisters before, like marketed ones, like the miniature ones that last for like a long time, last for like a couple months, and they give you CO2 injection so the plants grow really fast, and then you do your nutrients, and water changes and stuff. And then I had the other one that was actual my own CO2 generator that I made from a soda pop bottle, and that worked. Actually, it's almost just as good as the real CO2 canisters. That like the only difference is, and the only difference with that one is you don't quite know how much CO2 that you're producing when you're using something like that. It's not like it's already in the can sealed and then you just adjust the valve. It's like it's making the CO2 from the yeast formula, so it's just making it until it stops making it. So at first it's putting out a lot of CO2. So you have to really adjust that counter on there. But it worked pretty good doing that too, like a CO2 generator for the tank. And so that's a cheap CO2 system that you can make up yourself. You just get some yeast, some sugar. Yeah, that's water, and you put it in the water, warm the water up. You get it warm, and you shake it up in the bottle, and you have a tube running from the cap, and you seal it. Let that tube run into the tank with a diffuser or so, and it'll start diffusing that. Once it gets going, it'll start diffusing that CO2 coming off the yeast. The yeast culture basically going on. That CO2 it lets off becomes the CO2 that will feed your plants in your tank. That air that it's given off. So that's one way to dose your. Talked about it before. That's one way to dose your fish tank with CO2, but you got to really set that up right. You got to get like a CO2 counter. You need to count the bubbles per minute, and then as it CO2 wears off in that jug, the yeast dies, and it's that CO. There's not giving off CO2 gas. You're gonna have to change that out and do it again. So that might take 4 days to have to do it again. That might take a week. It just depends on how you. And you have to be really careful. You don't want the same thing that you got to put a little valve or something so you can adjust how much CO2 is being pumped through that hose into your diffuser stone that's diffusing the CO2 for the plants to grow. You have to kind of like tinker with that. I got a bubble counter laying around here somewhere. I haven't felt the need to use it and pump CO2 into this yet at all. I want it to kind of sit in. But when I've done CO2, I even still leave a regular air stone. Because I was just like, just to make sure you don't accidentally over CO2 your tank. And, it's like make sure there's still other oxygen going in there to sort of let off that CO2 gases and stuff out of the water. So there's something still going in. But if you have too many fish too, even sometimes, even if you have an air stone, if you have a big tank and you think that little like you have to have enough air going in there to so they don't come up to gasping for air. You have to have enough air pump pressure to diffuse into the tank. So for a small tank like this, that one stone I got back there is enough. It won't, the fish can make do. The water's both oxygenated. The filters hitting this water surface, and sometimes it's giving nice oxygenated water. and then there's plants giving oxygen too, and the lights on. So. But that's the cool thing about having the plant part. But when you add that CO2, you add that other element. You add that other element to it that can cause issues or not issues sometimes. Yeah, I had tried it. I had one with the canister before. I had one that was without a canister. It was like a CO2 generator that I made. I would just get yeast packets. Mm-hmm. Get a packet of yeast, sugar, little sugar. Close the cap, set it, open the valve up a little bit after a few minutes. Starts the bubble counter start counting, and that's the CO2 going in. And you just adjust it to the size of bubbles you want it to be, and so they'll diffuse properly, and then you're good to go. But bubble counter's not as good as the diffuser stone because you get like finer bubbles, so it's more saturation in the water. It's not as good. Or you can do it like if you really get complicated, you can do it so like the CO2 will diffuse into your filter box and then go through it that way. And it's almost like it's mixing it in there and then dropping it into the tank. Sometimes that creates like a cool effect too with the plants if you have your water dosed properly and stuff. I've seen someone do that before. And I was like, that's kind of a good idea. They're like, yeah, you could try this and try this. I was like, I haven't tried that. But for some tanks, I guess it works pretty good, and the plants really go crazy for that. And he's like, yeah, and on top of that, it mixes in that box with oxygen too, so it's not just because you can hear that trickling sound. It's like there's air transfer there. So he's like, put it in the box, the CO2, have it like diffuse in that box, and let that and then spill into there, and then it diffuse on the water. I guess that was his logic behind it. I guess something like that. And when it goes into the water, then it's dispersing, so it's not just like streaming from one area in the tank. It kind of disperses in the water. So we just kind of, I guess, getting at about it. And I was like, I don't know, never tried it, but I saw what it looked like from how that person was doing it, and it appeared to be working for him the way that tank was set up. So I was like, maybe, no, I don't know. I don't know if I need to try that. Yeah. Cool idea. I was like, I saw what it looked like. It's definitely doing something. The way the plants are growing right there. But you gotta know what the bubble that count is, and how much area, how much you need to be letting get into the water. You have to figure out how much per minute is coming out, or per second is coming out. And then once you figure that out, then depending on the size of the tank, you're kind of good. Plants will really grow like really fast or that way. That's trying to get maximum plant growth output. Dang. Just love the fish and one person. People make what you're thinking of doing not fun. I said, yeah, it happened much. Can do other things though. Lots of other things to do. And yeah. Fish. Aquatic. Fishing room. So things you can do. You do gotta get in the algorithm. You get to go, man. Super so funny. It's not that bad though. Yeah, people are funny about this. About the cult stuff too, like the behaviors they go on. Like people will be like, "Well, I have this now. I don't care," and they don't. It's basically like they don't care. Some people just don't care how they hurt, damage everybody else. Even involved in that stuff sometimes, and they're like, "So what?" Like you're saying, they never seen nothing crazy. But then when they see something crazy on there that happens, they're sitting up here. Oh, we gotta support. It's so weird. Like some people like in our society, how it moves. Like sometimes when you sit there and pay attention a little bit to how everything's moving and working. Yeah, I'm adjusting it. But you could see those fish hovering there, but it's hard to make them out. The light's not very bright over there. I'm trying to keep the light kind of like that so you can kind of see them. But the other way is like put more of them in there. Yeah, I'll let it run for a little bit longer. I'm not gonna in the stream. I know that's exactly why you guys are messing around. You getting rounded off. There's no other real decision until you do this and you're laughing about it. You think it's funny? You're playing around with them and see what they do when you do what they do. I'll tell you what they did to somebody. I'll tell you about the things what they did. Oh, crazy. Nasty Drew that. Believe me. Till later. Didn't believe me until later. Mm-hmm. Couldn't. I know that there was a glare on the glass for a second too, and I noticed as soon as I moved that camera lens, that person who was looking at that camera, the person as soon as I changed that setting, I noticed that person jumped out of there, jumped out of the live stream. That was funny. I was cracking up. Yeah. Oh yeah, Kofi. Oh, cool. Cool. That's cool. Yeah, this glass has like it's pretty reflective actually. That's why I was like, I don't know how this bow front if it'll be okay. I said use the bow front. but it has like a little spot where it's reflective, and so it reflects back off the camera. So you can actually see me moving. Look. You might be able to see me moving on the reflective glass if you're watching. You see? You see me? You guys notice that? Did anybody notice that? See? Can you see me? No, you can't. You can see my drink though. I think you can. See? You can see me moving around, right? Can anybody see that cup? I think I can see it on the. So it's like a little illusion. Now, if I scrape down, can you see me? That's crazy. You can't see me. You can see me, but you can't see me. That's crazy. So technically, y'all have seen me, but there's like an illusionary effect on it. People were plotted on always. People laughed. It was funny. It's funny to do that. It's so crazy. Talk to him like this. And that person but somebody like that. So Flame, what's up? What t-shirt? They're looking at the fishes for a little bit longer. They done ate, but they're still begging. Kind of begging at the glass. And these guys like to screw up right here. Yeah. Keep it. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of weirdness. What I was talking about earlier. I'm like, oh, there's so much weirdness. I was like, they're trying to confuse you. People just targeting and start doing their little weirdness. And they be like, I'm not doing this. Mess. But at the same time, you must be doing something all right if people try to snag your lures. It's a compliment in a way. It's a compliment in a way too. So, Dan, you wanted to try those out pretty bad. You remember that from that one year. It's like that's what happened. You remember that from that one year? I better careful. I don't want to lose more jigs again. And I was like, these guys are from this other time, this other year when I was fishing, and I was just like, you know what? You guys are trying to hold me at ransom. Ransom again, huh? Jig for a jig, and I just y'all have me take. I'm like y'all are just a mess. Trying to hold my jigs at ransom. I better trade you for the rest of them. I was like, I'm not even gonna get into this bartering again to get stuff back. I was like, some people are funny, man. These cult weird stuff. Weird. Well. What it is what it do. What it is what it do. Just I'm gonna shut it down a bit. Been off for like I'm trying to just wait like another. I'm gonna leave it on for like another 10 minutes and then I'm shutting it off. But I'll just gibbering and jabbering again. I do gotta keep you sure too, Shana. But when you went through all that stuff, it's unbelievable how it can be that way at certain. But it's just how it is. You can't do nothing about it, and then your choice is nothing less. Sometimes, so you have to kind of go, oh, okay. But when someone tries to do all this crazy stuff, it's just kind of like, what's the reason? And then you start realizing what those reasons are. You retrace steps and stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, I know why you're treating me that way. Like, you know what? This was thought this was settled at this point and this point in time. Apparently, it wasn't. Apparently, that was with that one person. Like it just as soon as I came around, they were ready. Like, oh, I was like, oh, so you gonna make me fight through all that for all this other stuff to be able to do what I already have to do. Like, it's weird. It's weird. People are crazy. When stuff happens because of cultic groups and weird and stuff. The way they it's just a mess. It's always some mess bartering, favor this, that, and it just gets too much for me. Sometimes it gets a little much. They try to make you all do in desperation for certain stuff, and that's just not. It's just not always it. Yeah, but like you can kind of see me, like right here, like it's weird, like you can kind of see me. My reflection to you guys, kind of, but you can't. But then yet you kind of can't. You can see like my hand move in my cup. Oh, who's that? Who's gonna do that? That's that. Oh, the movie defocused. See, if we look at that hat. Let's see what it says on there. All the names on that hat. Fishing hat. But this one is like not that nice as it should be anymore. But if you look at it, it's got a bunch of. It's got like Danny Brower, Wu Davis, Bill Dance is on here, Shaw Grigsby. Yeah, that's who's on this hat, on the brim of the hat. And this is like the DuPont, when there's DuPont strand fishing stuff. And I got a bunch of old flies like attached to it from a long time ago when I first got the hat. I just put flies on it and never realized maybe I should put flies on that. But I think it's like a copied one and then they printed it. So it's kind of neat, but they just printed all their names on that hat, on the brim of that hat. It's kind of a neat fishing hat. And it's their real signature, but it's like it's stamped, like they stamped it down, kind of. And when you look at it, almost it looks like they wrote it on there. It's pretty cool. Cool fishing hat. I do have some. I do have a fishing hat or two. Not much, but so that's just kind of like fun one to hang up on the wall and look at. Sometimes it's just kind of fun to have. Nothing too crazy about that hat, but that fishing hat's got like Bill Dance on there, Shaw Grigsby, uh, Danny Brower. Yeah, those are all the people who are on that hat. Their signatures are on it, and they use like a stamp print like type of thing to like put the names on there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Always something. Always something. Yeah, that's what I did too. Just let it run. Talk. Just hanging out watching fish too. Just thinking. The thoughts over the tube. It's kind of crazy that stuff happens though. You just want to show that you can tie and not just show. You want to keep going and do some other fun stuff. And other people also inspire you too with other ideas. You watch something. Yeah, that gives me a good idea too. I want to do something similar, but maybe I want to try this instead. But some people are, kind of funny with their behaviors because they know you can see uh, they know you can see when the person's being instructed by a group to do certain things. They know you can see it, like so they'll tell somebody to do something sometimes, like a little behavior or something to see how you react to it. Like it's supposed to get you like upset or something. Like they'll do weird stuff like that too. Like I see it all the time on a certain some YouTube channels. I'll see it and I know what's going on. It's really weird that I can read that though behavior. Yeah, I could read it before, but not as like I can now. It's really weird, especially when I'm watching other streamers, different streamers and stuff. So I don't know. Some people say like, "Are you teaching them to be less obvious about how they move?" And it's like, no, like it doesn't matter. Like they just some people who are doing these certain things, they just move like they just do weird behavior, like movements and stuff. So like I might appear to be weird movements be weird to them, but really their movements are weird to me. It's actually the opposite how they operate. Like it's the opposite. So I'm the alien. They're like alien to me, and they're treating me like I'm the weird alien. But I think the opposite of that. Some of them. But that, hey, if everybody was the same in this world, then that'd be boring, right? So some people, certain groups are gonna think this person moves this way, and certain ones gonna think it don't, and then certain other ones are gonna learn. Oh, and then learn like, okay, now I see why that person. Yeah, I've had those epiphanies too. When epiphanies when meeting people in different situations, like, oh, now this makes sense. Okay, now I can like gauge why this person acted this way. It's not valid necessarily to do certain things. That's what people do, but did you when you're in that state? But then sometimes you realize why, like what happened in their life, and then you know why they're moving like that, or and I understand that because they they pull their moves on you, and that's the thing. If they've ever pulled those weird moves on you, I mean, for me, it's all like I hate y'all, I hate them. I'm just like, no, I just don't like how certain ones in certain positions manipulate certain and they don't in the wrong way, and then they like to try to blame it on the some citizens too, other citizens. They'll be like, and you don't know what you be like. It's kind of weird what happened, and then you realize it's like they're controlled, and you're just a other person in the race for something or stuff or that you kind of care about, but they're looking at you like something else. The behavior of them looks at you like something else. So I don't know. It's crazy. Let me see who's here. Where she go? I'm late. I am. But I try to. Oh no. Oh no. Not bother him. Yeah, like the fish. Sort of okay. Fish tanker. Yeah, it's 3 hours in. I'm gonna get off here, guys. Thanks for hanging. At least, and some of you folks who came in and dropped some likes and listened to me gibber about the tanks and and situations, and we still got to keep on going. You know, regardless, we still have to live in this world, even if people are acting weird like that to you or doing dumb that stuff to you. So you still have to try. Just go about your stuff, even if people are trying to put you in those weird scenarios like that. But all right, y'all.